our industry, we talk a lot about the last mile or the final mile. But what about drayage, or the first mile, as our partners at Next Trucking like to call it? Joining me now is FreightWaves Market Expert Henry Byers, knows a lot about drayage, knows a lot about ports. Speaking of ports, what are the busiest ports here in the U.S.? Where do we take in the most volume?
Well, the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach handle about 40% of all inbound containerized volume. So, those definitely handle a majority of the volume for the U.S. on the import side.
And we're in peak season right now, and I know they're probably getting a lot of volume. Last year, they saw an incredible amount of volume. How does this peak season compare to last?
Well, last year you had about 2.2 million TEUs come in on the import side. And this year we're expecting to see around like 1.9. So there's really about 200,000 to 300,000 extra TEUs last year, and a lot of that was due to the pull forward. So we're expecting kind of a normal cadence this year. So we'll see volumes steadily increase until around October, and then they'll decline a bit. There is an early Chinese New Year, so there will be some volume that moves a little bit towards the end of 2019, but it will steadily decrease kind of from October.
When you're talking about this pull forward last year, are you talking about the tariffs?
Absolutely.
Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so last year, the U.S. importers saw January 1st, 2019 as the deadline for those tariffs to be implemented. So what you had was they pulled a lot of their volumes that normally would have moved in 2019 into Q3 and Q4 of 2018. So really in the months of October and December, if you look at the statistics, there was really about 100,000 to 150,000 in each month additional TEU volume on the import side coming into those ports specifically. It played out into the truckload market. You saw spot rates really jump. It really caused quite a bit of congestion in the port.
And we're talking about tariffs and kind of the congestion it caused, but also it's causing U.S. shippers to change their routes and change who they're using, not necessarily China, but they're going to places like Bangladesh and Thailand. Is that changing the port activity right now then?
I would say so. The congestion, first and foremost, for a U.S. importer, they're really trying to prevent any of the congestion type issues. So ocean carriers were also pushing different services as a result of what happened last year. So you're seeing volume shift into places like Oakland, Northwest Seaport Alliance, Seattle, Tacoma, Vancouver, Prince Rupert, places like that. But on the actual sourcing and manufacturing side, you're seeing countries, companies trying to circumvent the trade war, move into places like Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, and use those as viable options, for their imports. So the services and the ocean carriers and the routes that they're using are also shifting a bit. So some of those guys that normally would have used the West Coast for their routings are now using places like Savannah and New York to route inland to the inland locations.
And with these tariffs, you kind of have to be ready because you never know when a tweet's going to go out. You never know. Like with the pull forward last year, people were rushing to try to get their stuff in to beat that deadline. Say something happens and more tariffs are imposed. If you're a drayage operator or carrier, how do you get ready? How do you prepare yourself?
Well, from the drayage perspective, you definitely want to be looking at turn times. If you're picking up at a specific terminal, within these ports, there's a number of different terminals that they may have to pick up from. Make sure you know where your chassis are, what ocean carriers they're connected to. Having an issue once you're there, if the container's ready, wait times, things like that. It can cause quite an issue on your delivery. So you want to make sure your appointment times are all set up on both ends, both at the ultimate consignee, whether that's a warehouse or an actual importer. Their warehouse location, but also you want to be making sure that you have appointment times with the terminals and that you're sticking to those and making sure you're doing those at a time where you can do it efficiently.
Some incredible information here from Market Expert at FreightWaves Henry Byers. Make sure you tune in every month for the Drayage update on FreightWaves.com.